Just a warning that I do film this outside on a sunny day, and the sunlight bouncing off the water can create a blinking light effect to anybody with photosensitive epilepsy. I've been watching an unhealthy amount of PetTube recently and people introducing their pets and showing how they care for them, so I decided, hey, I'll show mine. So here are my beautiful koi. I do have a garden tour video up where you can see the rest of the garden and get a better idea of the space that they're in if you'd like to go and see that too. I have 6 koi in my pond currently. It's worth noting that I have no idea what gender they are. We do not get them sexed when we buy them, and it's really hard to tell fish gender if you're of the untrained eye. There are only 3 main ways of telling. Number 1, fin shape and colour. Males tend to have smaller pointed fins that are opaque and colourful, whereas females tend to have larger rounded fins that are either partially or fully translucent. The second is body shape. Males tend to be longer and thinner, whereas females are wider and rounder. And the last is size. Females tend to grow bigger. We don't breed our koi, we've never attempted to breed our koi, and they've never attempted to breed, which is good because a fully developed female koi can lay up to 10,000 eggs. That's a lot of babies. Even if the vast majority don't make it to actually being a developed baby koi, that's still a lot of babies. We currently have 6 koi and the pond runs at about 20,000 litres, which is around 4,399 gallons. At most at a time over the years, bearing in mind that we've owned koi since before I was born, and I'm 25, we've had a maximum of 15 koi in there at a time, probably not even that many. The first fish I'll be introducing you to is Terry. He is black on the top but orange underneath on his belly. That's why I call him Terry, because it's like a Terry's chocolate orange. If you're wondering why the koi are like that, they're kind of facing into the plants and upright, that is completely natural. They are either A, sunbathing, or B, sleeping. Had to slow this clip down because they were swimming so damn fast. So the koi at the very front, the marbled one, is August. The one behind, the giant gold one, is Saturn. Orange and white behind Saturn is Castor, and orange and white on top is Gemini. And the littlest of them all, the little gold one, is Apollo. We always get our koi in pairs generally, so they come with a bag mate, that's what I like to call them, and we've unfortunately lost both August and Apollo's bag mates. We lost Apollo's bag mate Jester to what we assume to be a swimming gland disease, because while he wasn't particularly social, he spent most of his time hiding up by the plants. When he did start to venture out, he started swimming on his side, and unfortunately when that happens, there's not really much else you can do. After Apollo and Jester, we then got August and his bagmate, Hades, who we lost to a heron. Now, we don't normally keep the net off, but because Apollo initially really liked jumping out of the pond to catch flies, and when we put the net over, he'd become seemingly depressed, we did leave the net off, which was a mistake, and we shouldn't have done that. And therefore, Apollo, if you're gonna jump, you're gonna have to do it when we're there. I'm now gonna get into the Q&A section of this video. Tara asks, what do you do with them during the winter? The short answer is nothing. Fish go into torpor, which is a type of hibernation to regulate body temperature. I live in a climate where it's not going to be deadly for them to be left in a pond without a heater. What will likely happen is that the top of the pond will freeze over, so they will go down to the very bottom and stay there until it's warmer again. Kianeko asks, what is the most important thing to know about owning them? Now this very nicely leads into Jingo J's question, which is, what is the ratio for koi to acres of water that they need? I've already said in this video that personally our pond is 20,000 litres or 4,399 gallons. Each koi need to have a minimum of 1,130 litres or 250 gallons. They grow big, so it's important to know that they need a lot of space. Which again nicely leads into Jane Lou's question, are kois bound in their size by how large their ponds are, like that cleaning suckerfish or goldfishies? Is it okay to pet kois? So for your first question, no, koi are not bound by the size of their environment. They will continue to grow, which is why they need so much space. Secondly, it depends on the koi. Personally, I wouldn't put my hand in my koi pond and try and pet them because that would just scare them, but they do like coming up for little strokes and pats. It really depends on them if they're going to come up to you. Silver Martin asks, what do you like most about koi? I think the colour variation and patterns are so beautiful. You rarely see them on any other type of pets. Well, I guess birds too, but fish and birds, you really don't see that type of colour variation on any other kind of animal. LA Garcia asks, where would koi prefer to swim? It really depends on the koi. A lot of the koi in my pond will gravitate towards Saturn, the big one. I don't know why. Maybe it's a survival thing where they're like, hey, that big guy over there, he'll protect me. Or whether, I don't know, they think that Saturn is just a friendly koi, who knows? Juggalos asks, would they be good if you live in Florida, like I do? The wife and I want one. Again, you can have koi in pretty much any area as long as you fit the specifications, with 130 litres or 250 gallons per koi. It's also worth noting that the ideal water temperature for koi is between 12 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius, which is 55 degrees Fahrenheit to 77 degrees Fahrenheit. If you live in a particularly hot area like Florida, then you'll want to invest in a water cooler, or if you live in a colder area, you'll want to invest in a heater. And another thing when it comes to temperature, it's important that you never ever feed koi at 10 degrees Celsius or less, which is 50 degrees Fahrenheit or less, because when it gets colder, their digestive systems slow down, and therefore if they attempt to ingest anything and it's too cold, they won't be able to and it can kill them. Devossos Films asks, how expensive is it to maintain the koi pond and fish? I think the initial setup for koi is the most expensive part. You're either going to want to hire people to literally dig out a pond, or do it yourself, which is the cheaper option. You're going to have to buy plastic for the underneath of it. You're going to have to buy filters, and if you need a cooler or heater, you're going to have to invest in that. You'll also want plants for the pond, and by the time you've got all of that set up, you have to get the koi themselves. And if you're buying fully grown koi, that can be expensive, particularly if they are high-grade koi. For the initial setup of the pond, you're looking at a couple of $1,000 at the very least. But the good thing about koi is they can last years. The average lifespan for a koi fish is between 15 to 25 years and even longer. In native Japan, they live even longer. The oldest living koi fish on record was called Hanako and was verified to have died at 226 years old. With koi, I think they're the pet that you can get the most out of when it comes to their lifespan. Unfortunately, cats, dogs, rats, gerbils, etc. don't live that long in the grand scheme of things, and you have to pay vet insurance and take them to the vet, which is going to be costly. While you can take fish to the vet, I honestly think that for koi fish, especially if they're a bigger fish, it's more stress for the koi than is necessary. Just keep checking the pH levels. If you think that there's a parasite, you can add some parasite treatment to the pond and they really should be healthy. We've never really had any medical problems with our koi. Most of the times when our koi have passed, it's due to old age because most of the koi that we procured were second hand, they were rehomed and therefore were already pretty old by the time we got them. And hey, not having to feed them half the year really does help with food costs. With cats and dogs, no matter the temperature, you gotta feed them. With koi, if it's too cold, don't do it. So to sum up, while initially it is quite expensive and you will have to fork out here and there for new filters or coolers or heaters if you need them, and for food every so often, over time it will be less expensive than any other pet. My girl Maury left an essay, and so we're gonna go into it. What are some of the most common misconceptions about having koi as pets? I know a tiny bit about fish, and betta fish are often kept in tiny tanks with a bad setup, no leaf rest or buddy balls, multiple tanks too close together and so on. How would an ideal setup for koi be? Size of enclosure, feeding, if they enjoy/prefer certain items. I'm curious how you maintain your pond too. I think I just want to learn more about koi, and we stan that. I've already gone over the ideal size for it. Again, each koi need to have a minimum of 1,130 litres or 150 gallons. Again, the temperature of the water has to be between 12 degrees Celsius to 25 degrees Celsius or 59 degrees Fahrenheit to 77 degrees Fahrenheit. You can keep koi in tanks, but honestly I think a pond is much better for them. So much more space. I couldn't think of putting any of my koi in a tank. Like all fish, they need to have filters. Again, we have 4 filters because it's a really big pond. As for feeding, again, as long as the temperature is over 10 degrees Celsius or 50 degrees Fahrenheit, then you can feed them absolutely fine. We feed them pellets. They have wheat germ pellets and pellets that help with their colouring and size. Those are the kinds of pellets that we give them. You can feed them once a day provided that the temperature requirements are met. Give them 2 to 3 handfuls of pellets and they'll be fine. As for pond maintenance, we make sure that we trim the plants back every year so there's not too much plant fall in the pond. You'll notice if you watched my garden tour video that both of the trees we have next to the pond are dead. This is because every single year we'd have to prune back the trees. Leaf fall into the pond can alter the pH levels and make it far too acidic to the koi and therefore poisonous. And one year we must have pruned too much because they just never grew back again. Every single year we have to remove frog spawn from the pond. We can't handle the amount of frog spawn that the frogs lay. We do have a lot of frogs and they breed like mental. We scoop up the majority of it, put it in a bucket and take it down to the local park, and the rest of the frog spawn is there for nature to do as it pleases. The koi will eat some of the frog spawn. Some people have asked me, are koi vegetarian? No, they're opportunistic omnivores. They will eat the pellets and they will have some of the algae from the pond, but if there is a way that they can get a little bit of meat, including tadpoles and frogs, they'll do it. We don't give them items or toys purely because the big gold one, Saturn, hates them. We once got a little toy that they could push around in the water. Saturn despised it. He'd swim away from, he'd thrash his tail around and become really stressed. And because all the other fish in the pond really gravitate to him, they were becoming stressed out by his reaction. So we just took it away. We haven't tried since. When koi fish see a shadow over the pond, they think number 1, oh, it's feeding time because when I see that shadow, food comes, or 2, it's a predator and I've got to run away. So my theory is he thought the toy on the top of the pond was a predator and really didn't like it. That is all of the questions that you guys left for me. I hope that this was a fun and informative video and that you might have learnt something you didn't know before. I'm now going to leave you with just some pond footage because I had to stand there for ages filming, trying not to move the camera too much, and I deserve honestly a reward for that. So here's just going to be a little bit of koi pond footage with some aesthetic music, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.